I keep doing that. There we go. Welcome to another edition of the Willy Bragg Show. I'm your host, Willy Bragg, and I hope everybody's doing well today. We're going to talk about, we got a couple of issues I will be discussing in the next several days. Granted, the energy level and it allows me to, because we need some catching up. So I want to talk about, I'm going to talk about the culture war that persists, needless culture wars. As you know, it's Pride Month. As you also know, I guess it's Veterans Month. Some people are like, well, I'm going to go and celebrate Veterans Month. You forget about this Pride Month, and listen, you do you. You do you. That's what you want to do. If you want to celebrate Pride Month and don't want to celebrate Veterans Month, you do you. If you want to celebrate both Veterans Month and Pride Month, that's fine too. And if you don't give a damn about either month, I'm okay with that as well. Why does it have to be an either or an either or, depending on your perspective? Why does it have to be one or the other? You can do what you want to do if we're supposed to be a free society. I have my doubts whether we are a free society today or not. It's certainly debatable, considering what's occupying the White House at the moment. In fairness, I would have said that previously under Biden as well. So Trump or Biden is like a cat shit sandwich versus a dog shit sandwich. There's no, and neither would be considered a sandwich if you have shit in between breads. So that's where I stand when it comes to this whole blue MAGA, red MAGA situation. Make that clear. So anyway, you got the new regime around replacing the old regime. The reference from the Who song, new boss, same as the old boss. And they all kind of offer a different, they're united as far, the two-party system are united as far as how to conduct their foreign policy. Although talk a good game when one party's in the opposition to the other. I mean, during the George W. Bush dictator years, it was like, America, love it or leave it. On one side, the other side is, no more war. Then Obama came in with hope and change. And what happened there? Slowly at first, the anti-war right was not that big, but it started to take place during the Trump campaign. And then that kind of became their jam. Except that Trump was still doing work with the Bush Cheney people in their vision, even though the rhetoric would show otherwise. Biden became president, and all of a sudden, oh gosh, the anti-war right really, really sounded anti-war. And they were right to be anti-war, especially between Russia and Ukraine. But then they contradicted themselves and sounded hawkish on Taiwan. What the fuck? So, and it was the opposite with the liberals. There were, some liberals, they were hawkish on Taiwan, but, they were certainly as giddy about Russia, Ukraine, supporting NATO to support Ukraine against Russia, just as much as George W. Bush Iraq War. So Ukraine became Biden's Iraq, although that motherfucker voted for the Iraq War too. So there you have it. Then Trump came in campaigning on being anti-war. His rhetoric about Liz Cheney was spot on and correct. Once he came in, he started talking about invading, sending troops to the border between the United States and Mexico and going into Mexico, making Canada a 51st state, taking Greenland from Denmark, and and cucking before Benjamin Netanyahu. And so, and there you have it. And there's no way in hell. I mean, if you're a Trump supporter, I may believe you as an individual, a faction who are truly anti-war. But the majority of the people in that Trump coalition were lock and step behind George W. Bush and Dick Cheney 20 years ago. Never forget that. Never forget that. They believed weapons of mass destruction that was non-existent. And they justify the deep state that they were bitching about during the Trump years. And they were right to bitch about during the Trump years. They were absolutely right. October 7th happened. What happens? They loved the First Amendment until October 7th. October 7th happened. It was like First Amendment, Schmerz Amendment. So they flushed the First Amendment down the toilet, and they were cheering. They were cheering state governors in red states and blue states alike that cracked down on the encampment because they're Hamas supporters. They're anti-Jew haters. No, they're not. You have people who don't like the fact that, for the lack of a better term, a genocide taking place in Gaza. So, and they tried to attack the First Amendment of people who are opposed to human rights abuse, war crimes in Gaza by the Israeli government. And the only optimistic thing about this is that I am hearing cracks on the right. And I'm talking about good faith actors that do exist within MAGA that are not too privy on the situation in Gaza themselves, either out of the name of isolationism or, or maybe in some cases there is a conscience for some folks. So this is where we're at right now. Neither party are anti-war folks. Both parties at the end of the day, because both parties got their balls being massaged by the military-industrial complex, defense contractors, whatnot. So, maybe people within those two parties who are not powerful are opposed to war, but those in charge, they love it. They can't get enough of it. So that's where we're at. Now, I'm hearing stuff about Donald Trump trying to end wokeness in the military, and Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, is removing things like reference to the Enola Gay aircraft being and other historical items targeted as being DEI, diversity, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the problem with that term is the way it's used today by the right, because they can't say affirmative action anymore. They can't say, and woke is getting a little cold, stale with them. And in some cases, they would like to go back to what they consider the good old days in their mind and use a horrible word that starts with that letter N. Some of them do. And if anybody from that camp get mad about it, my advice is cry a little bit harder or bite me or both. So, because I'm a truth teller here. I try to be a truth teller. Any information that I would say that turned out to be inaccurate would be not of malicious intent, but by accident. And if I have to retract something, I would retract something. So, there is very much that. But to start off with a little bit of levity, They're acting like woke is a thing in the military, what have you. Nobody can mock that thing better than Tim Dillon. So let's start with some Tim Dillon. And we're going to be talking about Tim Dillon sometimes this week. So let's go ahead and play some Tim Dillon. This cracked me up when I saw it the other day. Between him and Bill Burr, I don't know which comedian I like better. They're both awesome. But this is Tim Dillon. Classic Tim Dillon.
Happy Pride from the National Security State, bitch! I'm gay for the CIA! Lockheed, DynCorp, Raytheon. Women are running the military-industrial complex now. The future is female, bitch! Murder is not a straight white male space anymore! I made this thermos out of a butt plug! I love my country and I love cock! Have some pride and drop those bombs, bitch! Woo! Even the prisoners at Guantanamo Bay were like, "We love you, bitch." I would burn them with lit cigarettes and they would say, "You go, girl." I was on Grindr in Abbottabad, Pakistan, luring terrorists into a cave and then fucking them Christian. I fucked ISIS Christian. War is for everybody. War is forever, like love. So you fucking look at that fucking death machine up in the sky and you say, "You know who's in there? Probably some queer who's fucking proud." Happy Pride from the National.
Yep. And that's, ironically, that's what Pete Hegseth think of the military is actually like. Yeah. The late David McReynolds had something to say about that when he was alive. For those who don't know who David McReynolds, who he was the first gay candidate to run for president in 1980. First out of the closet gay man to run for president in 1980. He was the presidential candidate for the Socialist Party, and he was the Socialist Party candidate again in the year 2000. I voted for him in 2000. I was a little bit too young and didn't know who the hell David McReynolds was in 1980. But suffice to say, once he was interviewed over a controversial issue of gays in the military back in the early 90s, and David would say something along the lines of, he thinks that instead of saying allow gays and lesbians to serve openly in the military, the alternative is to give heterosexual people an honorable discharge and just, not have a military. That was David McReynolds' answer to that. And, it was like, that's a position that, that's a position that's refreshing a point of view when it comes to that issue. So there is that as well. But what I want to do is to let you know that apparently on June the 14th, there will be a military parade in Washington, D.C. And what makes me, what kind of irritates me about this whole thing when it comes to this military parade, it's just happened to be on Donald Trump's birthday. And that's a very narcissistic thing when you think about it. And so he's basically threatening people that they will be arrested if not if they're causing disorderly conduct, but if they're there protesting at all. So, so much for this support for the First Amendment. And anybody who's ever believed that Trump was ever pro First Amendment, I got a beach property in Wyoming that they'd be interested in buying. So I'm going to check. Here's the article here on Trump. And basically, Trump wants that military parade protesters will face a very heavy force. It's not very pro-liberty. He certainly wants to thread on people. Remember the little snake? I'm not talking about Elizabeth Warren, but the rattlesnake, her conservative counterpart, I guess, in New Hampshire, don't thread on me. They don't want to be thread on, but they want to thread on other folks. Trump warns that the military parade protesters will face very heavy force, quote unquote. A major military parade marks the 250th anniversary of the Army is to set place in downtown Washington Saturday, which is also Trump's birthday. President Donald Trump warned Tuesday that anyone who protests at the U.S. military parade here on Saturday will be met with very heavy force. Trump told reporters in the Oval Office that they're going to be celebrating big on Saturday, referring to the parade that will wind its way through downtown Washington, D.C. If there's any protesters that wants to come out, they will be met with a very big force, Trump said. I haven't even heard about a protest, but you know that is people that hate our country, but they will be met with very heavy force. You know, Trump doing that shit. It's not going to make them love the country anymore, okay? Just thought I'd let you know about that, Orange Man. The White House didn't immediately respond to a request for a comment. The president also addressed protests of the administration's immigration raids in Los Angeles. These are paid insurrectionists, he said about the demonstrators. You mean paid by the feds? You know, some feds that out there to try to make the protesters, try to make all protesters look the same. See, White House border czar Tom Homan, who's a fucking asshole, by the way, told NBC Nightly News anchor Tom Lummis on Tuesday that immigration and custom enforcement officers will defend themselves in Los Angeles, citing an example that involved Molotov cocktail allegedly thrown at officers during protests. Homan said that the officer would have all the authority in the world to respond with deadly force if it had lit that officer up. And let me tell you about this Tom Homan. He, and I'm not defending AOC, but he was trying to find a way to have her arrested over the situation with her giving advice to immigrants when it comes to immigrant raids and what their rights are and all of that. She's not wrong. Tom Homan is. His remarks came in response to a question about Trump's warning to protesters Monday in Truth Social post saying, if they spit, we will hit. And I promise you, we will hit harder than they have ever been hit before. Such disrespect will not be tolerated. Disrespect Tom Homan? Fuck you. You heard me, Tom Homan. And y'all can send it to them. Send it to the government. You can tell them that they can spin on this, motherfucker. So anyway, fuck you, Tom Homan. I'm not sorry I said that, by the way. The military parade Saturday will mark 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army and is expected to feature tanks and hundreds of other military vehicles and aircraft. It's estimated to cost about $45 million, including, as such, $16 million to repair Washington, D.C. streets afterwards, U.S. military officers said last month. Saturday is also Trump's 79th birthday. Notice I didn't wish him a happy birthday. We're going to have a fantastic June 14th parade, Flag Day. It's going to be an amazing day. We have tanks, we have planes, we also have all sorts of things, and I think it's going to be great. We're going to celebrate our country for a change, Trump said Tuesday. Trump said that other countries celebrate the end of World War II, and the U.S. was the only country that did not. Well, so when you celebrate the end of World War II, Trump, are you celebrating it in like sad about it? You know, that side that sometimes some of your critics claim that you would support lost, or do you really think that the enemies we defeated in World War II were actually the bad guys? Just asking, quote unquote. and we're the ones that won the war. Said Trump added that if it weren't for the U.S., Americans would be speaking German or Japanese. Time out. Let me clarify this. Whether you support the Soviet Union or whether or not, and that's irrelevant whether you support the Soviet Union or not. It was the Soviets that were able to, they're the ones that did the most damage to Hitler. I mean, the U.S. and the British gets credit. But it was the Soviets that went into Germany. I mean, they were the ones that destroyed Hitler more than any other group. They were the ones that liberated the concentration camps more than any other group, other nation. So, Trump, yeah, U.S., I'm glad they thought it was based to defeat Hitler. I'm glad that the UK thought it was based to defeat Hitler. But, and I don't consider myself a Stalinist, but it was the Soviets that defeated Germany more than anybody else. They get the biggest credit when it comes to ending the war. So I just want to have that clarified. Officials are expecting hundreds of thousands of attendees. Matt McCool, the U.S. Secret Service agent in charge of Washington field office, said Monday. McCool said they plan to deploy thousands of agents, officers, and specialists from across the country. People attending the parade of related festivals will be required to go through checkpoints with magnetometers. Ask about any changes to security planning in the light of LA protests. McCool says we plan for those things ahead of time. We're paying attention, obviously, to what's happening here, and we'll be ready for that if they were to occur. He said, though, he added, we have no intelligence of that happening here, but if it does, we have the resources to handle it. So anyway, I can link this article, but suffice to say, and there's a little more to it, but you're getting the meat and potatoes of what's being said there. And the point is that, Trump is not particularly too keen on the First Amendment. And so, okay, you want to go and protest, you want to go and crack down on protesters. I better not hear from some MAGA apologists when they go around telling people whether they're normie Democrats. And I'm all for criticizing normie Democrats, but not from their perspective. But normie Democrats, liberals and leftists alike, telling us that we don't support free speech, and some don't, mind you. Neither do they. Stop it with that lie, like you're some right-wing alpha male. Right wing, but not the alpha male that they claim that they are. I'm alpha male. I support free speech. But you better not say anything that I disagree with. That's pretty much what it comes down to. Oh my God. Anyway, so there we have it. That's where we're at with culture war. The culture war that wants to remove the Enola Gay because they think it's part of some LGBTQ grooming agenda. I mean, let me tell you how ridiculous that is. These people have become. Dark side of the moon, the pyramid with the little rainbow going through there. And I just thought about that analogy. Some of them are claiming that all of a sudden, dark side of the moon are trying to promote LGBTQ ideology by printing out a rainbow by the pyramid. Motherfuckers, that thing has been part of the record cover since 1973. So it's crazy, just crazy what the right wing likes to come up with. So as I said, this is kind of a short video, but I would want to discuss how ridiculous people can be when it comes to the culture war regarding, Veterans Month versus Pride Month. And I'm noticing that again, people, a lot of companies are not putting up the rainbow stuff and all of that because they're feeling the cultural pressure to be against pride or what have you. I don't care if a company has a pride flag or not during the month of June. Doesn't matter to me. Even if I was gay, I don't think it would matter to me. Is what I'm saying. I just don't. Because you're going to go buy a product or go buy groceries, or you're going to go and buy, I was going to say VCR, DVD, flat screen TV, whatever, new computer. God, I'm old school when I say VCR. If you're going to do these things and you get the best deal financially, like a good deal from it, and you're not being bankrupt when you buy whatever product or groceries or items, whatever you make your purchases or whatever you do your purchases. If you're going to come out ahead, are you going to give a damn whether the company is pro LGBTQ or not, when the name of the game is to have equality across the board? And equality actually means sexual orientation, but also means economics too. It matters more to me if a company is paying a living wage to employees or not, And when it comes to the First Amendment, a lot of these people who are on the right talking about cancel culture and all of that, no group gets more victimized by cancel culture than labor unions and people in companies that are trying to organize. So if you're trying to organize a union in a company because you think wages are low and management is shit, which applies to 90% of the companies out there because we live under capitalism, why is some of you folks on the right okay with firing somebody for trying to organize a union? I mean, you can't make it make sense. But it's talking to these people is like talking to a brick wall, because what I'm saying is obvious and true. They'll never acknowledge that. They'll never ever acknowledge that. So anyway, suffice to say, right now, I'm going to probably cut this a little bit short because I had to grab something to eat. But I'll talk to each and every one of you here on the chat line. And we have Extra Bulla, Warren, Willy motherfucking Bragg, y'all. Hey, Warren, how are you today? Shit sandwiches taste horrible no matter how much mustard you put on them. Yeah, yep. As somebody who's tried mushrooms before, suffice to say, you can't get that horrible taste away. Suffice to say, once again, that was a one-time thing back in the early 90s. All right. Hey, how are you doing, Desert Mantis? I have the suit, Willy. All right. And Earl, how are you doing today? Hope everything is well. Chuck's Intergalactic UFO Show. Hey, Willy, there's still way too much not stuff happening on your planet. Please do better, Earth. I'll talk to my fellow Earthlings about that. I will. Let them know. Snipe Hunter, hello, hello, everyone. And Kameshwari Kate just arrived. Hey, Warren and Willy. Hey, Kameshwari Kate. I was listening to CBC News, and the news is all obsessed about the parade. It's a fiscal waste of time. Where's Doge whenever you need it, really? And it is really a fiscal waste of time. Just think of the cost of that parade if they put it to actually helping poor people and middle class people, whatever way that it could be funded. Just think how much, and do it without any means testing. Just think how much better it could be, Let's give that amount, a lump amount, to random people who can't afford college. That would have impressed me a hell of a lot more. Happy Wednesday, says CBC Voter. And happy Wednesday to you back. Max RJ says, wow, this is getting good. How are you doing, Max? Great seeing you here. Anybody else showing up? And PHS Cisco says, hey, I baited him. So he's shivering and I want to hold him. Hard to type. Great seeing you here too, Cisco. Great seeing you. So anyway, folks, I'll be back tomorrow night. I will, it'll be a topic. I'm trying to think, is it Greta Thunberg or is it going to be Elon Musk? One or the other. Yeah. I forgot. But it's one or the other. That's who I'm going to be talking about. I'll be talking about Palantir, hopefully in the next few days as well. And I will say to each and every one of you, if you like what you heard, press like and comment. Comment anyway if you disagree with what I have to say. Feel free to share content on this channel. As a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it, because we are, in fact, the muckrakers of our time. Also, remember to reject corporate media. Spread the word about the Willy Bragg Show. I'm getting close to 1,000, so we need to keep a good thing going. And as I said, we're the muckrakers of our time. And when I say we're the muckrakers of our time, I'm also flying it to you guys as well. Y'all got a lot to say too. So if you create your own platform, if you don't have one already, you let me know and I'll do what I can to promote y'all. So also remember to free and pardon Ed Snowden, free Palestine, free healthcare for all, and fight to keep our freedom of speech free. Until next time, until the very next time, I will say this. Fuck Pete Hegseth. Take care. Bye-bye.